Hello, Mr. Himpele, and thank you for being here with us today and talking about Vienna and about Vienna as a city.
Thank you for the invitation.
First of all, since you are the CIO of the city of Vienna, please tell me, what is a smart city all about? Is it about having as many smart traffic lights in the city, about much free Wi-Fi in the park, or is it about something else or something more maybe?
Well, Vienna is one of the most livable cities in the world. And in my view, there are several reasons for this. We have beautiful historic buildings, a wide range of cultural activities, the best educational opportunities, the highest water quality, excellent public transport, and reasonable weather. But the city administration plays its part. For example, booking public transportation or kindergarten, including long opening hours. Thus, a full-time job and children go well together. Vienna also offers large and, above all, well-tended and clean green spaces. In other words, life is good in Vienna, and the administration strives to contribute a lot to this. Smart city and digitization in general means for Vienna to further expand this quality of life, both in a physical and a digital space with digital values. When we digitize our services, they have to be as comfortable and simple as possible so that people can organize their lives easily. Of course, this also means that we use sensors, artificial intelligence, and smart technologies in the city where it makes sense. As a single access to these services, in 2020, we launched our platform My Vienna, where many services are already offered and are constantly being expanded. People and companies only need one login for everything. I'll come back to this maybe later in detail.
Yes, thank you. So what is at this point, what are the features that make Vienna a smart city? You told me about this platform, you told me about the single login. Is there something else there? We would like to find that out. And what is the strategy? Is there a framework for everything you want to do for Vienna as a smart city?
Well, yes, we have several strategies. You mentioned the Smart City Framework strategy the city of Vienna gave itself. And we have also a digital agenda. And maybe I can start like this. A city will never be fully digitized by a certain date. So a strategy is only one mark on the way. There will always be something to do. Even in the industrialization era, there was no closing date. And Vienna started with e-government in the late 1990s. At that time, Vienna and also Austria were pioneers in this field. And I'm not sure if we still are. Yeah? Today, the public's expectations of digital solutions are much higher than they were back then. We started to build up the virtual office, which now comprises almost 600 so-called official help pages to explain, to simplify, or even to save the people having to go to the administration office. The global digital disruption has then led us directly into the digital transformation in which we strive to put people at the center, but not the technology. And I think that is the core of our strategy. You can use digital tools, you have to use digital tools, but in the end, it makes only sense when it helps the population of the city of Vienna and the entrepreneurs located in Vienna to have it better and easier than before. So technology has to serve the people.
Okay. Recently, I heard you talking in an interview about a sort of digital copy of Vienna and a digital Vienna to help you better work for the inhabitants. Please tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the digital twin, what you are referring to, is mentioned in the government agreement, in the coalition agreement with our not more so new, but almost a year old, a little bit more than a year old city government. and they have the aim to create a digital twin of the city of Vienna. What we have since 10 years is open government data. Yeah, so we give data from the city of Vienna to the public to use it to make apps and so on. And the next step, or one of the next steps we have to do now, is the digital twin of the city of Vienna. And the idea is to have a digital model of the city physically, but also with socio-economical data, so that you can simulate and modulate things you want to do to get better results. So the aim of the digital twin is to have better possibilities to have a better evidence-based planning in the city administration.
Do you have a deadline for this twins digital city? Did you establish something like that?
We already working on it. We have a lot with the department which is in charge of the buildings in the city to put them in a digital framework. And we had a project where like Google Maps, there was a car driving around the city, photographing the whole city, and the first processes are online with this. But there is no end date because it's a very, very complicated thing to build such a digital twin. And by the way, the city of Vienna is always changing. So the digital twin has to change also always.
Did you estimate a cost for this by any chance?
Well, yes, we have an intern estimate, but it's not public up to now because the processes are running. But yes, but the point is you can use a lot of things you did in the past. I mentioned the open data. Yeah, of course the data is quality of data. We have a data excellence project in the city of Vienna running for years now, and this costs also a lot of money. But we have the data now and can use them also for the digital twin.
Since you also worked in statistics, please tell me, what data did you open in Vienna? What can an inhabitant see about the way you administrate the city?
Well, there is a lot of data online, and we have every quarter we have a meeting where we discuss what's the next step. Of course, you have a lot of data from the statistics, as you mentioned, for example, the number of inhabitants by a birthplace, by whatever. Yeah, you have the name statistics, but you have also a lot of other things. For example, where can you find a public loo, which is data which is very important for tourists if they need, and things like that. You can watch it. It's open.wien.gv.at. And the next step we will do now is to visualize this data, because open data has one problem. You need at least some technical skills if you want to work with them, or some skills to deal with data. And technical skills is maybe too much. But persons who are not very able to deal with data, for them it's hard to use those open data. So we programmed a visualization tool right now. The next step will be that you can also have visuals from this data. Yeah, but our strategy is very clear. It's open by default. So if you can give it to the public, then we will do it.
Okay. Do you have a deadline here for graphically representing all the some of the data?
Well, as I mentioned, it's more than 10 years back that we presented the first data, and they are still online, of course, and they have to be updated every then and now. Yeah? For example, the population of Vienna changes, and due to that, there is no end date. As I mentioned, we have a meeting every 3 months where we discuss what will be the next data to be published, and so the community knows what to come, and then we do it. Yeah, so there cannot be a deadline. Of course, in the beginning it was much easier to find new data because a lot wasn't published. Up to now, there is a lot published, so it's much harder to find new information which could be of interest and which have no problems with data protection or things like this. But this is an ongoing process, and it must be an ongoing process. Just if you take the updates, I mean, you cannot put the number of inhabitants online and they let it there for the next 10, 15 years. That's not a solution.
Okay. How is Vienna at this point in matters of digitalization of public services? What can a citizen of Vienna do online in relation with the city, and when and for what purposes she should still come to the city hall and interact with an official sitting behind a desk?
Well, there are some processes where the law enforces us that you have to meet an official. Yeah, that's mostly law from the Republic of Austria. So there is no chance to make it in a digital way. But as mentioned before, we have implemented the virtual office on our website, and citizens can find information on 600 official pages. And for almost 250 official procedures, they can also use online forms, which saves them the trip to the authority. So 250 official procedures can be done online. And for several years now, we have been developing the My Vienna internet platform, which enables citizens and companies to take care of their official business quickly and easily. But let me add something. I'm not sure if this point is not a little bit misleading. Our problem with digitization is not so much how we can put a form online. Of course, this helps the population a lot, because if they don't have to go to the authority, it saves time and so on. But the main challenge is to reorganize the city administration in a way that makes it possible to really digitalize the whole process. I mean, what I'm talking about, this means, for example, that there are no media breaches within the process, or that the people, in addition to the application for a service, also get actively and, of course, digitally informed about the status or the result of the process at the same platform. And to be honest, we have a lot of forms online. So a lot of 250 I mentioned, yeah, a lot of processes can be done online, which is a really good first step. But the much more important step is to digitalize the whole process in the back. And that is where we have some processes working very well in a digital way, and still a lot to do.
In the strategy, the smart city strategy, you said, well, not you, the city of Vienna said, it wanted to be fully digitalized by 2025. What does fully digitalized mean, actually?
Well, as I mentioned before, there will not be an end date for digitalization. There is no way, yeah, because we all learned also a lot with the pandemic now, because that's quite funny, yeah. Before the pandemic came, I think we were on a quite good way. Still a lot to do, but there was also not so much need for these processes. And right now we are in the midst of the digital transformation, because all the people, even the people who didn't like digital technologies before the pandemic, had no chance. I mean, they had virtual conferences, they had home office, they had distance learning, and so on. So the capability of the inhabitants of the city of Vienna to deal with digital tools is much bigger than it was for the pandemic. And this also means that the pressure on having really fully digitized processes is much higher than it was 2 years back. Yeah? So there will be no end date. Yeah? I'm not sure what you are referring to with the 2025. The first strategy, the first framework, I think, went to 2025. The smart city framework strategy, which is in force now, has an end date in 2050. But end date doesn't mean that we are finished then. It means that we want to reach some goals till then. As I mentioned, it's hard work now to go process through process through process. In this year, 2022, there will be big steps with the My Vienna platform. That is what I can say for sure, because I know the plans.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going to come? What new features will come online this year?
Well, there will be also new features. For example, we had just a few months ago the possibility to give you the process that your children can go to the kindergarten is really fully digitized. But that's not the important thing. There will be several new things. But the most important thing is there will be a completely new design, and it will be much easier. You know, the idea is you have your data once in the data broker, your name, your address, whatsoever. And if you log in and need a process of the city of Vienna, the form will be pre-filled automatically. So you don't type again, it's me, I'm Klemens Himpele, I live in this and this street. And this is what we have right now. The architecture is ready. And now we will bring this in the second quarter of this year. If you go online, you can go to My Vienna. It's online. You will see the look and feel is not very modern, I would say, and this is what will be changed in the first part of this year.
Does digitalization come with the need to fire people who are now working for the city of Vienna? And if so, because some people do fear that, how can you tell those people, also citizens of Vienna, well, you may lose the job, you may lose this job at least, but wait, this is for the best. How can you do that?
Well, first of all, yes, there will be a shift of required expertise and skills caused by the digital transformation. We all know that, and that's not only with the public administration. But for the public administration, no, there will be no need to lay off employees. On the contrary, we will be facing multiple challenges. A little more in detail. As an economy, we face a huge problem with the lack of professionals. This means, I mean, we will need more people for our labor market than will be available. That is not the case right now. Yeah, at the moment we have unemployment in Vienna. But in a few years, the so-called baby boomers will retire and smaller cohorts will follow them into the labor market. And the baby boomers are also a very huge cohort within the employees of the city administration. And of course, there will be a great shift at the labor market and the transformation might be quicker than in the past. But this is a huge challenge for a city like Vienna. And that's why we invest a lot of money into the future development in order to set the course to qualify the needed professionals. We have an own organization. It's called WAF in German, Wiener Arbeitnehmerförderungsfonds. It's an organization who has the aim to better qualify people. They are almost already in jobs. So they are not unemployed. There are other instruments, but they are in jobs. They need to be better qualified. And of course, it's a huge challenge, but I would say there's still enough to do.
Going back a little bit on how a smart city works, and Vienna specifically works as a smart city. You're using a lot of technology, a lot of, you said earlier, sensors and apps. I was wondering, how can you make everything work together and not have the technologies work one against each other? Because if you have a traffic app, for example, who helps you go around the city, this is good because it will save you time, it will save you gasoline, so it will help the quality of the air, but also it may cause traffic jams. Traffic apps usually do cause traffic jams. How can you make everything work together?
Well, this is a very important question, and you know by yourself it's not easy to answer. We had this debate, by the way, on a conference in October 2021, just a few months ago, where the question was debated how digital tools can help to tackle the climate challenge, because that's the question in the end you gave me. The question, you know, on the one hand side, technological tools like the app you mentioned for traffic lights can help to spare resources. For example, if you use technology to organize sharing resources, or to organize public transportation system in a better way, or to make it quite easy to get a bike or whatever. On the other hand, it is much easier to get access to individual mobility, to rent a car, for example, or to use a taxi service. which might be a problem not only but also in traffic jam. So the important topic is that technology is not neutral. The question is how we use it.
With all the sensors and the cameras and the connections needed to make the smart city work with the Internet of Things and everything else, does a person still have privacy? Because privacy is also an important feature in the quality of life.
It definitely is. And this is definitely a big challenge. Especially now in the pandemic, we have to be very, very careful that data protection is always taken into account. We are talking about health data in this case, which need to be protected in particular. But in general, I would say the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, has been an essential step for people to be the owners of their data again. A great deal still needs to be done here, especially in terms of education. It cannot be that large, globally active companies get up to mischief with people's data. Here, the Vienna City Administration has a very watchful eye to ensure that citizens' data is protected and not manipulated or corrupted. And it's not a coincidence that one of the most popular data protection organizations within the European Union, the organization NEUB, which means none of your business, from Max Schrems, is located in Vienna. Vienna supports this organization because we think it is very important to have clear rules here and also to enforce these clear rules, which is the aim of this non-profit organization of Max Schrems. Some of you may know him. He became very popular with his processes against Facebook, his lawsuits against Facebook.
Okay. Well, to conclude our discussion today, I would kindly ask you to picture digital Vienna, I don't know, 10 years from now. How will it look like? How will it feel like? How will it work like?
I think the most important thing is that digitalization is not rocket science. It is hard work. Most of the instruments we need, we do have. Of course, there are new technologies we have to learn about and we have to use better, for example, artificial intelligence. But for us, it's very important to have a clear focus on our customers. And our customers are the inhabitants of the city of Vienna and entrepreneurs located in Vienna. And for them, it must be as easy as possible to get the processes they need. So I think this is maybe the most important thing to finalize. Finalize is a hard word because it'll go on and go on and go on. To have this My Vienna platform where you can do everything you need from the city of Vienna. Of course, in a mobile version, in a desktop version, and so on. But this, I think, is the most important thing. Besides that, there will be new technologies, for example, artificial intelligence. And it will be very, very important to understand in which cases we can use it. Because, there is always a debate that algorithms has a bias. They are biased against gender or something else. And we are very proud that the city of Vienna is the first city in the world which was certified by IEEE, which is the largest organization of engineers worldwide with the headquarters in New York. And Vienna is the first city which is certified for an ethical, for dealing ethically with this question of artificial intelligence. And there is also a new standard, IEEE 7000, which will come into force, hopefully worldwide, which was also launched in Vienna. So there will be a lot of more algorithms, a lot of more automatization, but the basic is that you have an easy access. And that brings me to a second topic. As a city administration, we have always the need to have the way open for persons who don't want or who are not able to use technological tools. So it must be always possible to get a passport, for example, by going to an office. So we have both ways, and this will go on. As I mentioned before, it will be hard work. So the processes to really digitalize what we have and not just have a form on a front end, a nice front end. This will be what we have to do. And this is a very, very complex task. It sounds a little bit boring, but in the end, the results might be astonishing because you will save a lot of ways with the public administration. We learned a lot through the pandemic. We have a testing system, we have a vaccination system, we have case and contact tracing. Everything is supported by digital tools, and we learned a lot how to think bigger in these questions. And I think this is what will have to be done in the next 5 to 10 years. And last topic, as I mentioned before, technological tools are not neutral. So we need a discussion, but not in the IT, but in the whole society, how we want to use technological tools. You mentioned privacy, there is safety as a second topic, and there are some else. So we have to discuss as a society, what do we want to need to use, and what don't we want to use? And this has to be a discussion, not only in the IT sector, but in the whole society.
Mr. Himpele, thank you very much for being with us here today and sharing from your experience.
Thank you for the invitation.